हरि ओम। ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। नमस्ते. Welcome to the ninth and penultimate session of Introduction to Upanishad. All of us have celebrated Mahashivratri yesterday. Many have performed long puja, abhisheka, chanted Rudra, and awake all through night. Dr. Hegde sir has taken up one Shiva Stuti every week and has explained the meaning of each Stuti. He explained us the meaning of powerful Namaste Astu Bhagavan, Om Trayambakam Ejamahe, Lingashtakam, and so many. Let's briefly try to know the Vedantic perspective of this auspicious day and night associated with the Shiva. The 14th day of every lunar month or the day before the new moon is known as Shivratri. Among all the 12 Shivratris that occur in a calendar year, Mahashivratri, the one that occurs in February-March, is the most spiritual significance. On this night, the northern hemisphere of the planet is positioned in such a way that there is a natural upsurge of energy in a human being. This is a day when nature is pushing one towards one's spiritual peak. To allow this natural upsurge of energies to find their way, one has to remain awake with spine vertical throughout the night. The word Shiva literally means that which is not. That which is existence and creation. That which is not is Shiva. You will see the biggest presence in the existence is a vast emptiness. So, when we say Shiva, it is the vast emptiness of existence. Mahashivratri is an opportunity and a possibility to bring you to that experience of the vast emptiness within every human being, which is the source of all creation. Let this night not just be a night of wakefulness, let this night be a night of awakening for you. May Shiva bless you all. Today, we are going to study one of the beautiful but very difficult Upanishad called Ishavasya Upanishad. Before that, Sri Ullas will revisit last week's class, which we studied last week. Over to you, Ullas.
Thank you. Hari Om. As we all know, we are studying the highest knowledge. And last week, we went through Kaivalya Upanishad. It is one of the great Upanishads. It belongs to Atharvana Veda, and it has very short number of verses, only 25 verses. And Shanti Pata is also a very common one, Bhadram Karne Vihi, in which what we are asking for is that may all my faculties are fit. May all the gods protect me and ensure that my studies are obstacle free. May we perceive everything as auspicious. And what is auspicious when we talk about spirituality is Brahman. So in the Shanti part itself, they cover that may I see in everybody Brahman. Then the Upanishad starts with Om Atha. These are very important two words which automatically denotes that the student here is highly qualified, because Atha means thereafter and whereafter means after attaining all the qualifications. So here the student approaches to Brahmaji, the teacher, with all the qualification and asks what? And he approaches the teacher with reverence and seeks the highest knowledge, the most secret knowledge, the one that would remove all his sins and make sure that all the problems of the samsara are gone away by merging into the Supreme. Now let's look at the summary of the verses. The Guru tells him that there is only one means of liberation, which is Jnana Yoga. There might be multiple paths to come to that, but then ultimately one needs to go through Jnana Yoga to get liberation. And what are the prerequisites for Jnana Yoga is Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasanam. And for Shravana, you need Shraddha. For Manana, you need Bhakti or devotion. And for Nididhyasanam, you need to have Dhyana capabilities. Then the next verse says, Na karmana na prajaya dhane. It's also very often quoted verse in which it is told that none of these things, whether it is karma, the action, money, children, or fame, they are not going to help you in getting liberation. So we can get doing all those things to prepare ourselves, but then eventually we need to get to something higher. And then what we achieve is nakam, the freedom from pain and pleasure. We get bliss and equanimity. Then the stages of this journey are talked about, that we need to do karma yoga to purify ourselves, upasana yoga to concentrate our mind, and ultimately go to jnana yoga to know that I and Brahman are the same. And then we need to have firm commitment in this knowledge. Again, just by knowing and reading that I am Brahman would not be enough. The firm commitment and actually believing in it, actually realizing that, is what is going to get us liberation. So this is a very important verse. Then it talks about various methods of meditation and how we need to turn our attention inward. Start with the Ekrupa Ishvara Upasana, which is Rama or Krishna, and then go to Aneko Rupa Ishvara Upasana, everything we see Lord in that, and then ultimately go to Arupa Ishvara Upasana, in which there is the Lord is formless, non-dual, blissful, and so many other qualities are mentioned. Then it also talks about how this whole creation takes place. The Nirguna Brahman actually interacts with the Rajoguna to become Brahmaji, to create it, and then Sattva-guna to preserve it and acts like Vishnu, and then Tamoguna to destroy this universe and act like Shiva. Then in the next verses, we see that there's a very important thing. What is the way to actually achieve liberation? In other words, it is said that I see all in me and me in everything. For example, the water would say that I am in all the waves and all the waves are in me. This is a very important thing to understand, that it should not be that, and there's a very often quoted verse in Gita also, that whether it's an elephant or a cow or even a dog or even a dog eater, I see every one in me and myself in every one of them. So that is very important. And then it talks about how arani wood is used to kindle fire. Similarly, in a very tranquil and a steady mind, if we have the sparks of self-inquiry, then those are enough to burn this whole bondage and all the problems of the samsara. Then it talks about how we are deluded in the waking world by Maya, and why we do all the actions, and how we enjoy sensual pleasures by that, by identifying with the body. So that we have to drop. Then the dream world is in which we have all the subjective experiences, because we don't have too many objects around there. And in the sleep, we are blissful, but we are under ignorance. So it talks about all the three stages of our experiences. And then it also talks about how do we go into the creation, that the Paramatma itself arises into prana, mind, five elements, and thereon. And then comes the Mahavakya. It is not one of the often quoted Mahavakyas, but they say that whatever tells that I and Brahman are the one is a Brahmavakya. So here we see that it is told that you are that Brahman, is told in verse number 16. Then in the next verse, it talks about that I am the one who is illumining all the three worlds. And that is a very liberating knowledge. And then it says what is often told in Drigdrishya Vivek, that I am the subject. I am not the one who is the instrument of knowledge or the object of knowledge, but I am the very subject of that knowledge. Trishu dhamsu yad bhogyam bhokta bhogascha yad bhavet. And then very, very popular verse, Mayyeva sakalam jatam, Mai sarvam pratishtitam. That everything is born in me, it is based in me and resolves in me alone. Like all the waves are born out of water, they stay in water and then they resolve in water itself. And then there are so many nididhyasanam qualities of Brahman. These are not really qualities, but in lack of a better word, these are the attributes on which we need to dwell upon to do our nididhyasanam, that I am Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Brahman, and we go from there. And then in the next last few verses, we also talk about that I know everything, but because I am the subject, but nothing can know me. So I cannot be the object of any knowledge. I am always the very subject. There is no punya, papa, or death at that level. So if I identify at the level of Brahman, then I don't have all these other things which I identify when I am doing it with the Anatma identification. And at the very last, again, very apt during the Shivratri, that talks about the greatness of Sri Rudram, that it takes away all the sins and liberates me from the samsara. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Ullas, for giving us a brilliant summary of one of the most beautiful Upanishads, the Kaivalya Upanishad. For those who have studied, this short recap helps us to get the essence of this very beautiful Upanishad. Om Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. A profound namaskara to all our acharyas who have given us insights into some of the most subtle learnings. These Upanishads, which is the best that the ancient India could give us. And we are learning today one of the most difficult Upanishads from the Shukla Yajurveda, the Ishavasya Upanishad. It's an extremely small Upanishad with only 18 mantras, and this comes from the Veda Purva. Strangely enough, although this is called an Upanishad, this is not a Vedanta. It comes from the Veda Purva. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is also from the Shukla Yajurveda, is considered as an elaboration of these 18 mantras in more than 400 verses. The first word is Isha-Vasyam, and that's how this Upanishad gets its name. It is recommended that we study this only under a guru, because that to a traditional acharya who's able to interpret these, because most of these mantras are very obscure. They do not have the usual dictionary meaning, and it is only through the brilliance of the Bhashyakara Adi Shankara that we are able to get the exact import of these mantras. There are two main topics, the two main topics being Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, which are introduced in the first and the second verses. And from the 3rd to the 8th, Jnana Yoga is elaborated. From the 9th to the 14th, the Karma and Karma Upasana is elaborated. Very rarely do we get a proper prayer in the Upanishad. And this prayer, which we will dwell in this study, in this class today, is also called the Charama Prarthana. Charama Prarthana means the last prayer that we make before we surrender the body. And that is there between verses 15 to verses 18. We'll have these mantras will be studied. We will be chanting them also during sunrise, during Surya Namaskara, which Dr. Netra will explain this. The Shanti Pata of this Upanishad is particularly cryptic. If you're able to understand this Shanti Pata, you have understood almost everything that is there in Vedanta. To be able to explain this is also extremely difficult. I will request Dr. Ravi Shankar to explain this Shanti Pata. Over to you, Dr. Ravi Shankar.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The next slide, sir. This is a Shanti Patha for the Shukla Yajurveda, for both the Ishavasya Upanishad and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Interestingly, this Shanti Patha is at the beginning of the class, more like a prayer. Let's go to the meaning of the verse itself. Purnam is infinite or whole. Adaha is the Paramatma. Idam is the Jivatma. So Paramatma and Jivatma are both infinite. This refers to the Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam, or the Tat Tvam Asi. The Mahavakya is given right here in the first two words of this verse. In the next slide, we will see Purnat Purnamudachyate. Purnat is the Purna Swarupa Paramatma. Purnam is the Purna Swarupa Jivatma. Udachyate means originates. From the standpoint of Nama and Rupa, name and form, which is a lower order, the wave and the ocean, the Jivatma and the Paramatma arise. But we know infinite cannot arise from infinite. Purnam is infinite, and it is beyond Desha, Kala, Vastu, Nama, Rupa. It is Parichinna. Hence, we must remember the ocean and the wave example. In the next slide, we see water is the source. Nama Rupa could be foam, wave, or ocean. But we say wave originates from ocean, forgetting that water is the source. In the next slide, we see Vyashti or Jiva, individual Shariram, as we see in the next slide, this slide, is the Karana is the Karyam Upadhi. It is like a wave, though it is water, and it appears like the Sopadika Jivatma due to the wheel in the mind. The Samashti or the Paramatma total Shariram is the Karanam Upadhi. Like the ocean, though it continues to be water, it appears as the Sopadika Paramatma. And to give another example, it is the gold in the ring, the bangle, the chain, which is the same gold in all of them. In the next slide, we see Purnasya Purnam Adaya. Purnasya means the essential Purnam nature, which is Jivatma and Paramatma. Purnam is the Purna Swarupa. And Swami Paramarthanandaji explains this word Adaya has two meanings. We must grasp or understand, and we must separate. Grasp the fact that water is the nature of wave and ocean, and with Viveka separate water from the wave and the ocean. The next slide says, Purnam eva avishishyate. The ocean and wave are mithya, water is the only satya. Paramatma and Jivatma are mithya. Purna Swarupa Atma is the only satya. So Swarupa is the satyam, Upadhi is the mithya. The Jivatma Upadhi is Shariratrayam. The Paramatma Upadhi is Prapanchatrayam, both of which are mithya. Therefore, Purnam alone remains when all the Upadhis, which is mithya, is removed. Let's see in the next slide the essence or the message of this verse. Next slide, sir. Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam is the most important message of this verse. Essentially, Nirupadika or no relationship is Advaita. Non-essentially, the superficial relationship or Sopadika is the Karya Karana Sambandha, which also has been explained. The essential nature of Jivatma and Paramatma alone exists, which is Satyam. The Shariratrayam and the Prapanchatrayam, which is the Anatma, is Mithya. And therefore, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha is the Vedanta Dindima, which is explained in this beautiful verse. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi Shankar, for an excellent explanation of an extremely difficult verse. For those who have been in the path of Vedanta for some time, you will be able to understand what Dr. Ravi Shankar has said. If you can understand, the next step is try to explain this to somebody. Then you realize the difficulty, but then in the process of explaining, you will understand what do you mean by this Sopadika, Nirupadika, along with the medium and that without the medium. Then you will be able to understand how much of Vedanta has been packed into this mantra that we keep chanting all the time, Om Purnamada Purnamidam. Chetana will explain the opening verse of the Ishavasya Upanishad, which is Om Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kinchan Jagatyam Jagattena Tyaktena Bhunjitaha Magrada Kasya Siddhanam. Mahatma Gandhi ji was so impressed by this particular verse that he said that if all the Vedantic literature would disappear and even this one verse alone would remain, this is the essence. And that is the greatness of this Upanishad. This Upanishad has got some wonderful verses. Chaitanya, it is your time to explain these verses.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. This Upanishad begins with this mantra. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tektena Bhunjitaha Magrada Kasya Sviddanam. What does it mean? Idam Sarvam, all this. Yat Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat, whatsoever and whatever they may be in this world. Isha Vasyam is pervaded by Isha, the Lord. Then Tena, once you change your perception and see God everywhere, by developing internal renunciation, then what happens? Bhunjitaha, You protect yourself from insecurity. How? Ma Gradaha, by not coveting or desiring kasya, anyone else's swidhanam, wealth in any form. So this entire universe pervaded by the Lord is pervaded by the Lord. Enjoy whatever is given to you by Him. Develop inner renunciation and do not seek wealth from any other source. So this mantra conveys two messages. One, the spiritual goal is given for all seekers, which is jnanam or spiritual wisdom. Second, it mentions one of the lifestyles we can follow. Here, sannyasa ashrama or nivritti marga is prescribed. So the Upanishads say that a person has got a choice with respect to the lifestyle he can take up, but there's no choice with respect to spiritual knowledge, because without jnanam, there is no liberation. So choose any lifestyle, either sannyasa or grihastha, choice is yours. But for moksha, jnanam is compulsory in both lifestyles. So what is this spiritual wisdom? It is the wisdom to replace world perception to God perception. Often our view or the perception of this world is colored with our fears and anxieties, thereby contributing towards our suffering or samsara. So shift your vision and see the world as God. How do we do that? Many a times we have been frightened by the sight of a snake or a lizard, but when someone points out that it is made out of rubber, what happens to that fear? It disappears at once. And once we realize that it is just a name and form and not real. In the same way, the whole universe is like a frightening snake. Vedanta says the world is just Ishvara appearing in various names and forms. And after a thorough analysis, with the help of a guru, what happens to this world? The entire world disappears and you see God everywhere, in and through everything. We have to develop this vision. This is spiritual wisdom. So how does a guru help us? He points out that Ishvara is the cause of this world, the Karanam, and the world is the effect, the Karyam. There is no world without God. So we have to change our drishti or the perception from world perception to God perception. After all, what is Vedanta? It is nothing but helping us to change our focus from Karya Drishti, the effect, the world, to cause God. We have to defocus from the world. Like when you focus the camera on something close, the scenery behind gets defocused. Similarly, Vedanta says, change the focus. Let the focus be on Ishvara and let the world be there in the background. We are not eliminating the world, but changing the focus. The more you concentrate or focus on a person, an object, or a situation, then ahankara and mamakara creeps in, leading to raga, dvesha, and you are sucked into the samsara cycle. Now, why should I change my perception? Because Ishvara is nityam, reliable, and stable, and the world is just the opposite, anityam, unstable, and unreliable. Therefore, for security and stability, rely on Ishvara instead of the world. Swamiji often gives a cardboard chair example. You can do everything with this chair, except one thing, you can't sit on it. It won't support you. In the same way, the entire world is like the cardboard chair. You can transact, you can experience, you can do everything, but for peace and stability, do not depend on it. So change your focus from world to Ishvara. This is inner renunciation, and this is real sannyasa. So in conclusion, everything is pervaded by Ishvara, and this Ishvara is the same as consciousness in me. And then when I learned to identify with that, then everything belongs to me. I don't desire anything as I naturally develop vairagya to everything, since I already am full with happiness, peace, and security. So give up your desires through inner renunciation and take to sannyasa ashrama as your lifestyle is the message of this mantra. But sannyasa ashrama is not for all. So the Upanishads give a choice of another lifestyle. Remain where you are as a grihastha, and still being in society, you can get liberation. How? That is explained in the next mantra. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Chetna, for explaining the opening verse, Om Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. This whole world is pervaded by the Lord. it needs a certain amount of sensitivity, which is called in Western psychology as the gestalt. As I'm seeing the world, just like when you focus with a camera, you can focus on a person or the background. So too, as I see this world, what is that which is supporting the entire world? And that is the opening wonderful mantra of this Upanishad, which the next verse will be explained to us by Shivakumar. Over to you, Shivakumar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The first two mantras of this Upanishad are said to be the Mula mantras for the whole of the Ishavasya Upanishad. After the profound previous mantra, which said that Ishvara is pervading everything, existing everywhere as both Atma and Anatma, here the Upanishad says, so long as one seeks to live a mere man, one should desire to live performing karmas for a full time of 100 years and lead your life. That is the only way. Karma Yoga Siddhanta is stated in this second shloka. As a grihastha, is it possible to gain knowledge? Swami Paramarthanandaji reminds us that Lord Krishna, Arjuna, and even Vyasacharya are grihasthas, proving that it is possible to gain knowledge even in grihasthashrama. No doubt, a grihastha will have lot of port. Swamiji's famous acronym for possessions, obligations, relationships, and transactions. The primary disadvantage of port is that our mind becomes preoccupied either with the possessions or obligations, relationships, or transactions. This mental preoccupation increases the difficulty for a grihastha in his pursuit of gnanam. Karma Upasana Yoga is the only technique to cross over this obstacle of preoccupation. Caught in a mesh of action or karma, of thought, speech, action of through limbs, we are faced with a number of questions. How should we do our duty? What is that kind of action? What is its cause? What is the effect of that cause? What form does the effect take? And many such questions. This mantra answers all these such questions. Kurvanneveha karmani jijivisechatam samha evam tvai nanyatetosti na karma lipyate nare. Jijiviset means the wish to live. As a jiva, desire to live is natural. A desire to live forever in this body. Under these circumstances, karma becomes inseparable from life. Karma is like a double-edged sword. It can either liberate us or it can bind us. Therefore, how is this work or karma to be done? It is to be done as a duty without expectation of fruits and as a worship to God, as has been stated in the very first mantra of this Upanishad. We should live doing our karmas selflessly with Ishwararpana Bhava and Prasada Buddhi. Proper action and proper attitude. The mantra says, Na anyata asti evam tvai. For you, no other way exists but this and this alone. However, there is no cause for fear, for karma done in a selfless, dedicated manner, na lipyate, will not bind us, nare, to the man or human being. And he who thus wishes to live a lifetime of 100 years should do his duty, but do it as a karma yoga only. With the next slide, I would like to conclude. Karma Upasana Yoga is the only solution to do our duty without mental anxiety, fear, or preoccupation and attain equanimity or samatvam. Upasana Yoga, that is, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, should be practiced for withdrawal of the mind at will from the worldly situations. Pratyahara helps us in withdrawing the sense organs and the mind. Dharana helps us in fixing on the object, and dhyana, meditation and samadhi, absorption. For a grahastha who has chosen pravritti marga, one should desire to live a full life of 100 years practicing karma upasana yoga, by which we learn to remain unaffected, remain in equanimity with conviction that Ishvara, the Paramapurusha, alone is our goal. This is the only way to ensure that karma does not bind us. We can enjoy the whole universe, remembering that we must perform our duties with no thought other than of him. Swami Paramarthananda advises us to remain in equanimity without stress. There is no other path. He says, if we have this, we are distressed. And if we do not follow it, we are distressed. This mantra has summarized the Pravritti Marga. Subsequent mantras elaborate the first two mantras of the Upanishad. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Shiv Kumar, for a brilliant explanation of this mantra dealing with Karma Yoga. And if you're able to do your actions as Karma Yoga, then it is not going to bind you. The next verse, the next presentation will be by Dr. Anupama, which is another very beautiful verse of the Ishavasya Upanishad. Over to you, Dr. Anupama.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, verse number 6. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmaneva anupashyati sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam tato na vijugupsate. Here we see the stages of evolution of Atma Jnana. Stage 0, before exposure to Vedanta or any scriptural study, I believe that I am the body with the mind. Atma is unknown. Stage 1, I begin to believe that Atma is in everybody. Atma Bahutatvam. I have an Atma, as does everybody else. Stage 2, everybody is in Atma. I am the substratum of everything. And finally, in stage 3, I have a firm conviction that Atma eva idagam sarvam. That is, Brahma Satya Jagat Vidya. I, the Atma, am the only reality. This is the Mandukya stage. Coming to the verse, Atmanam sarva bhuteshu anupashyati. In this first stage, we see bhutam means sharira or bodies. Pashyati means not literally to see, but to recognize or understand. Aparokshataya janami. Here, I realize that Atma makes my body sentient. Everybody has an Atma. Both bodies and Atma are plural. This is the stage of Atma Bahutatvam. I believe that I am in this world. Here, I am in the Ajnana Avastha. Next, Sarvani Bhutani Atmani Anupashyati. This is stage 2. Through Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, I begin to see all bodies in Atma. Pashyati here again means Aparokshataya Janami. Anu means backed by Guru Shastra Upadesha. My understanding now becomes, I am Sarva Adishtanam. Mai eva sakalam jatam, mai sarvam pratishtitam. I now am in Jnana Avastha. So, am I in this world? Let's take this example. When I'm dreaming, I say, I am in this world. On waking up, I say, the entire dream world was in me. What is the inference? Jnana Avasthaya, I am in this world. Ajnana Avasthaya, I am in this world. But Jnana Avasthaya, the whole world is in me. As Lord Krishna said, Sarva Bhutastha Atmanam, Sarva Bhutani Chatmani, Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma, Sarva Samadarshanaha. A Jnani sees Atma in everybody and everybody in Atma. The reward of this realization is tato na vijugupsate, meaning tataha is tasmat jnanat. By that knowledge, na vijugupsate is a jnani does not dislike or hate anybody. Raga dvesha atita bhavati. How does a jnani transcend raga dvesha? A jnani sees himself in everybody. This makes him compassionate and loving towards everyone. Consequently, he attains freedom from binding likes and dislikes. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitraha karuna evacha. The stage 3 is the Mandukya stage. To simplify, Atma is here personified as Krishna. In the stage 1 we saw the container was the world and the content was Krishna. In stage 2, the container was Krishna and the world was the content. But as long as both container and content coexist, duality still exists. Now, the container has to swallow the content. Atma eva idagam sarvam. We should understand anatma as mithya, non-substantial, nama rupa, and the atma as the only substance or reality. It is the substratum or adhishtanam of anatma. To conclude, Brahma Satyam Jagat Nitya. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anupama, for giving us a sequential understanding of spiritual wisdom through various stages. The first stage is when you don't realize there is something beyond the body and mind, when you think you're just body and mind, the Charvaka stage. Then comes a stage when you become religious to say there is something of the spirit in me, but then there is spirit in everybody else also. And then to understand, it is not that there are many spirits, but there is one spirit in which all of us are there. And finally, what is called the Mandukya stage or the Advaita stage, other than Brahman, everything else is of a lower order of reality. And to be able to have this vision, then I do not hate anybody. That is why these verses Mahatma Gandhi loved so much. It is said, this sort of an attitude is the best thing for a national integration and for a universal integration. We have now come to the concluding part, 15th verse of this, a very popular prayer normally done at the time of Surya Namaskara and so on. Dr. Netra will explain this verse to us. Dr. Netra, please.
Namaste, Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The mantra goes as Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasyapahitam Mukam Tattvam Pusan Apavrunu Satya Dharmaya Drushtaye. So in this mantra, there are two messages which are given. One is that the pathway towards moksha is always only one, that is only after attaining jnanam, eka sadhana sadhyam. But to attain jnanam, there can be multiple paths, aneka sadhana sadhyam. A upasaka can do karma yoga, upasana yoga or pancha mahayagna and eventually attain jnana yogyata and then attain jnanam and finally the liberation or moksha. So let us understand this mantra. This mantra can be interpreted in two ways. The first interpretation is by a upasaka who knows he has a desire to attain jnanam, but he is not able to. He is waylaid by the materialistic desires. So he is praying to the Lord. He is praying to the Lord Pusan, Surya Bhagavan. Why Surya Bhagavan? Because Surya Bhagavan is considered to be the absolute. His Shakti, his power is something which is difficult to comprehend by a human being. So it is considered as a visual representation of Atman or Brahman. So this Upasaka, he is praying to the Lord Surya, Satyasya Mukham. The gateway to Brahman is Apihitam. It is closed. Closed by what? Hiranmaya Patram, golden disc. It is closed by a golden disc, which is consisting of the materialistic desires. The materialistic desires are tempting me to such an extent that even if jnanam is at my doorstep, I look at my watch and say, that I do not have time for Jnana. This is similar to the story of Ramayana. Rama and Sita, they were very close to each other. Rama is Brahman, Rama is Moksha. Sita was so close to him, but still she got tempted by the golden deer, and eventually there was Ramayana. So that is the power of temptation which this Upasaka is facing, and he's asking the Lord, Tattvam apavranu, kindly remove these obstacles. Why? Satya dharmaya drushtaye, because I have practiced Vedic disciplines in the pursuit of Advaita Jnanam. So this is a Upasaka, a mumukshu who is trying to attain Jnanam in this life, but he is not able to focus because of all the materialistic desires. He does not want to postpone attaining Jnanam in the next Janma. He wants it in this Janma. The second interpretation is given by Adi Shankaracharya, where this Upasaka is actually at the fag end of his life, and he knows that he cannot attain Jnanam, but he has realized the importance, the worthiness of Jnanam, and he is again praying. Pusan, Surya Bhagavan, is represented in this as Hiranyagarbha Devata. He is asking, kindly open the door towards Shuklagati, so that he can attain Hiranyagarbha. He can attain Jnanam in a different pathway. But for this, the Upasaka should have few preconditions which should be there so that he can go through this pathway. That is, he should practice Upasana throughout his life and at the time of death. He should do Nishkama karmas, and it should be sincerely done for Jnanam or Moksha only. He should try to meditate upon total Ishvara or Hiranyagarbha and invoke Ishvara on himself. So when he does this, the Upasaka at the time of death, his Jiva, which consists of the Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram, Upasana Punyam and Chidabhasa, it withdraws from the physical body, forms a nucleus and enters the Hrudayam of Upasaka. Eventually, it goes through Sushumna Nadi, Brahmarandra, and then a different pathway, Shuklagati, and goes through Brahmaloka, which is through the solar disk. And in Brahmaloka, this Jiva attains Atma Jnanam and eventually Jivan Mukti, which he was not able to attain in Bhuloka. And Videha Mukti at the end of Pralayam. So here in this mantra, we see two Upasakas. One is a Mumukshu who wants to attain Jnanam in this life itself and does not want it to be postponed to the next Janma. And the other is a Ajnani who has realized the importance of Jnanam in the fag end of his life and is asking to go through Shuklagati and eventually Kramamukti. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Netra, for giving us a complete explanation of this very popular mantra, which so often done early in the morning when we do Surya Namaskara. And you have given both the interpretations and the significance of this particular mantra. Until now, every morning we were chanting one prayer for the season of Shivaratri. Shivaratri comes every month. Mahashivaratri comes once in a year. But Ratri comes every day. In this particular Upanishad, there is a prayer which is called the Charama Prarthana. Charama means the ultimate prayer or the prayer when a person is on the deathbed. As Dr. Netra explained, all those techniques to be able to go to Brahmaloka, these are not possible unless a person is a very strong Upasaka and is able to do it every day. The Charama Prarthana, this prayer Prarthana is not something to be done at the time of death because we never know when death will come, how it will come, what will be my condition. But if you really want to make the best use of this Upanishad, we have to be daring enough to be able to make this prayer every evening prayer. Hiranmayena Patrena is okay as a sunrise prayer. but we can use the same prayer from 15th to 18th onwards as a Charama Prarthana. Every evening is a preparation of the evening of my life. It is a preparation for death. Every morning I'm born. Every evening, every night, I prepare for my own death. When this practice becomes so efficient, when the ultimate moment comes, then you will see that the fear of death goes away. I will request Venkatesh Prasad to chant these 4 mantras, and it is my sincere request that all of us memorize this, chant this correctly. Every morning, the Hiranmayena Patrena and all these 4 mantras at sunset every day. Venkatesh Prasad, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasyapi Hitam Mukham Tatvam Poshannapavruno Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye Ushanne Karshe Yamasurya Prajapatya Vyuha Rashmin Samuha Tejo Yatte Rupam Kalyanatamam Tatte Pashyami Yosa Purushah Sohamasmi Vayuranilamamrutamethedam Bhasmantam Shariram Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara Kratosmara Krutagam Smara Agnena Yasupatharaye Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yuyodhyasmat Johurana Beno Bro Ishtam Te Namavuktim Vidhema Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Venkatesh Prasad. Dr. Netra has already explained Hiranmayena Patrena, which one meaning means there, please remove that golden disc. I'm not able to see your beautiful face. Other meaning would be, I'm so distracted by the gold and the glitter of this world that I have missed this opportunity until now. So the prayer of the Upasaka is to remove that golden disc, Satyasyahi Pitam Mukham, so that I may be able to see you. Tattvam Pushanna Pavranu, O Pushan, O Nourisher, I am the seeker of truth. Show me the right path. Then comes the prayer. When you listen to the interpretation or the meaning of this prayer, you develop an acute sympathetic reaction. A sense of fear comes because this is a prayer of a person on the deathbed getting ready to surrender one's body. Now, this is a prayer to the nourisher, to the sun. Pushan Ekarasi. O nourisher, Ekarasi means the lonely one, that solitary one. Yama here does not mean Yamadharmaraja. Yama here means the controller. Because when the sun rises, the whole world comes into activity. When the sun sets, Yama Surya Prajapatya. Prajapatya means the son of Prajapati. Yuva Rasmin Samoha. Can you gather your rays unto yourself? Tatte Rupam Kalyanatamam. So that I may be able to see that auspicious face. And then what happens? A person is shocked. When the Lord reveals himself, what do you see? Yosaha so Purushaha Sohamasmi. Which means the one that I am looking for is none other than myself. You're able to see yourself in the Lord. This is still an upasana. And when it is an upasana, it is called an abeda upasana. When you're able to invoke the Lord in you and you're able to see yourself in the Lord. And that is the meaning of Sohamasmi, not from an Advaita angle as much as an abeda. Abeda means my Lord is not different from me. Now comes the difficult part of the prayer. Vayur Anilam. Vayu means my breath. Anila means the total air. Let my breath become air. And that air is Amritam. It is there for all time. Basmantam Shariram. Let this body, which is only an instrument, we need to be very clear that I have a body disidentification, just like I use this computer to interact with you. The computer is only an instrument which is there for some period of time. And when this goes away, I have to use another instrument. So too, my body, when it becomes dysfunctional, I should be ready to surrender it to its elements. Basmantam shariram. However, at such moments, you feel a little unnerved and you're praying to the Lord and says, Om Krato Smara, Kratagam Smara, Krato Smara, Kratagam Smara. You have done a lot of good things. You try to remind yourself that I have done so many good deeds. As I said, every Upanishad brings in Om somewhere. And in this prayer, Om comes in. Om Krato Smara, Kratagam Smara. And finally, you see yourself in the funeral pyre itself. And then your prayer is to the Lord Agni. Agni, you praise Lord Agni. Agni Naya Supataraye Asman. Asman means for all of us. O Agni, Supataraya. Show me the auspicious, the path of abundance. Show me the good path. And then you praise Agni. How do you praise him? Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan. You are the all-knower because everything is done in the presence of Agni. Yuyud Jasmaj. Please remove Juhuranam. I know I have done a lot of mistakes. I know you know. But let this not come in the way. I have sinned, I know, but please remove all my sins. You are all powerful. I know you have the ability to withdraw all my cases. Please remove all my sins. What can I do? Bhushtantem. I can praise you. How? Verbally. Uktim. I can praise you verbally again and again and again. Remember, the scene is one is on the deathbed. And there is no ability to do a normal form of namaskara. So all I can do is a verbal namaskara. So these are the 4 prayers which bring us to that moment when we surrender the body. And if you're able to practice this every day, of course, this is not a prayer of a jnani. Our vision is that we become a jnani and therefore all these become irrelevant to us. But of course, let us also practice until spiritual wisdom dawns on us. Let us use this prayer and make this an everyday prayer. With this, we conclude this very beautiful Ishavasya Upanishad, and I will request Venkatesh Prasad to conclude today's class. Over to you, Venkatesh. Before Venkatesh starts, let me introduce the Upanishad of the next week. This is the pinnacle, what can I say? The Gauri Shankar. There can be nothing higher in Vedanta than this particular Upanishad. The Mandukya, the word Mandukya means frog. It comes from the Atharva Veda. It is the smallest of all the Upanishads. It has got only 12 mantras. And in 12 mantras, what can you teach? That is why it is called a Sutra Bhuta. It is the essence. And it will help us to revise the teaching that we have got from the rest of the Vedanta. There is one Upanishad called the Muktiko Upanishad, where the teacher is Lord Rama and the student is Anjaneya, Hanuman. And Lord Rama is telling Hanuman, Mandukya Eka Evam Alam. Mandukya Upanishad alone, when studied, is sufficient. That's what he says. But Mandukya, being so small and so cryptic, it required a great Vedantic teacher in Gaudapada Acharya. Gaudapada Acharya is the teacher of Adi Shankara's Guru, Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya. And Gaudapada Acharya has composed what is called the Mandukya Karikas, which help us to connect the teaching of Mandukya Upanishad with the rest of the Vedantic knowledge. These Karikas are in verse form. Although this Upanishad is only 12 verses, there are 215 Karikas. Adi Shankara has not only commented on these 12 verses, he's commented on the 215 Karikas also. And therefore, it is now in tradition that you not only study these 12, you study the 215 verses also. And those of us make this commitment that we are going to study the Mandukya along with the Karikas. One has a very clear and the highest vision of Vedanta is possible through Mandukya Upanishad and through these Karikas. The the whole Mandukya and its Karikas can be divided into 4 parts. The first part is called the Agama Prakarana, which has 12 mantras that are of the Upanishad. All the 12 are included there, and 29 Karikas. Then there is one of the most beautiful parts called the Vaitatya Prakarana, where Gaudapadacharya gives a very clear comparison between our dream world and the so-called real world. He proves in every argument that you can to say how this world is not different from the real world. Then if this world is unreal, then what is real? He brings that out in the Advaita Prakarana, and finally 100 verses in the Alata Shanti Prakarana. When you come to Mandukya, you have to know again the Tattva Bodha. You have to know what is this Vishwa, Virat, Taijasa, Hiranyagarbha, Prajna, Ishvara. From the individual or Vyashti, we refer to as Atma, from the Samashti as Brahman. Again, we have to go again to the waking dream, deep sleep state, the experiencer and the experienced, and the correlation between these 3 states and A, U, and Ma of the Upanishad. The Upanishad will be explained next week. I will not touch on the verses of the Upanishad which glorify Omkara. As I said, every Upanishad brings about somewhere the Omkara. And here is one Upanishad entirely dedicated to understand what this Om means. Om is everything, the opening word says. And in the second verse comes the Mahavakya, Ayam Atma Brahma, which will be explained in the next class. There is one very delightful mantra, which whether as a student of Vedanta, you have to learn this by heart. That means if I wake you up at any time in the night and tell you, Nantat Prajnam, na Bahish Prajnam, na Ubayata Prajnam, you will have to repeat each of these words, because through negation, you understand what is this Brahman. So all this we will study in the next class. And this 7th verse, this Nantat Prajnam na Bahish Prajnam na Ubayata Prajnam na Prajnana Ganam has got one word like Prapanchopashamam. Prapanchopashamam is the seed for the entire Vaitatya Prakarana. Then you have the 17th, the Advaita, which is the seed for the Advaita Prakarana. Like that you will see so much is loaded in this particular Upanishad, which is going to be a treat. But of course, it is only going to be an introduction and to stimulate us to one day study this Upanishad and the Karika in full detail. We'll conclude today's class. Over to you, Venkatesh Prasad.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, friends. We are at the end of our 9th session. Next Friday, as mentioned by Hegde sir, we'll be taking up Mandukya Upanishad for our study in our last class on Upanishads. As usual, on Monday, our Viveka Chudamani class will continue. Let's meet on Monday, same time for Viveka Chudamani. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. local time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.